every major CEO of every major company, every politician, every president, and they're all on this list. This makes me want to dive in a little bit more and say, okay, well, what are those things that are not being taught to? You know, a lot of, I mean, maybe there's some people in this group that who went to one of these schools, or they know someone who has or whatnot. But it's pretty fascinating,
and they learn a different style too, which is really cool. It's called the Harkness method. I don't know. There's probably people in this group that have been through it. I haven't. I wish I did, but and they probably know way more about this than I do. But it's round table style learning, right? Where you discuss where you're thinking, right? You're not in a classroom being spoken to, being obedient, the bells ringing. And if you study John Taylor Gatto stuff, you realize a lot of it is programming obedience. And it doesn't solve, like, they don't teach you problem solving. They don't teach you how to deal with a no, right? It's very much you're trying to get a good grade, you're trying to be obedient and not think outside the box.
Yeah. So that then brings us to where we're at here. Obviously, this is stuff that he was telling me this weekend, and I'm like, interesting. So he started going in a little bit deeper. We don't need to go into all that. We want to get into some other stuff, 80-20 rule and whatnot. But it starts to make you wonder, you know, like I talk about success leaving clues, right? And so I don't know about you guys, but if I see Rolodex, like you guys we went through it very quickly, but you see a Rolodex of every major CEO of every major company, every politician, every president, and they're all on this list. This makes me want to dive in a little bit more and say, okay, well, what are those things that are not being taught to not only our kids, but even like me? Like, I was horrible at school, right? Which is probably a good thing because I don't remember any of it. And so maybe I can be reprogrammed a lot easier. But I think a lot of us, for me, the big aha moment there was like, stop believing everything that you're told and just taking it as the law. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, if you guys watch those documentaries with us that we posted last week, the surveillance capitalism, you'll start to see what I think a lot of us are starting to understand, that just because this world says that this is what it is, or this is the school you're to go to, doesn't mean it's the only way. Exactly. Doesn't mean it's the right way, right? Could mean that someone hasn't told you something, such as me learning this for the first time. And I go, Mike, when did you learn this? He goes, I've known about this for 5 years. I'm like, I threw a pen at him. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I tell you every idea, you know, like whatever. And 5 years, like, I'm like, come on, man, like help a brother out. I'm sitting over here like an idiot, you know, but it's interesting. Like you start to pay attention to things that you've always thought as the law or the right way, and then you kind of start digging into the depths of the origins of it, right? Where it began, why it began, and again sifting through a lot of there's a lot of crap obviously out there, so you got to make sure you can triangulate it.
It's what that is logic, right? It's the ability to not accept everything on face value. Correct. And that's what they teach you. That's the trivium, right? So the grammar inputs into your mind. Logic, then you say, is this true, right? Or is there a fallacy? So quick thing to do, type this in. Okay. You get a list of the logical fallacies. Okay. This is just good to learn. Okay. Because this list of logical fallacies. Now I know. Yeah, this is great. Okay. So this is great for copywriting and all this, because you're realizing you're marketing to a society that isn't trained in logic. Correct. Right? So I like the Wikipedia one, but any of these will do, right? There's like the straw man argument, the
straw man fallacy.
Yeah, straw man fallacy. There's ad hominem, which is an attack on the man. Okay. Right? And there's all these ways that right. They figured this out years ago. This comes from Aristotle. But essentially what you want to do is you want to just at least be familiar with this, right? You don't need to get an incredible in the correlation causality. That's a big one. You want to be looking at this stuff because not only can you not be susceptible to it in your own daily life, but as marketers, you got to realize there's a society that isn't trained in this.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use a lot of this. Now you use it ethically, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. But it's good to know, and it makes you not accept everything totally true. As totally true, it lets you think and decide for yourself what you want to believe in. Where's the one that I look at? There it is. List of fallacies by Wikipedia.
There we go.
That's really good to go through.
I don't take Wikipedia at face value though. So.
Don't take anything at face value. But that's part of logic, right? Part of logic is it's making up your own mind.
Yeah. And I think more than that, it's going through the process, and this is very true with anything you're doing, especially as an entrepreneur. I always talk about inspect what you expect, right?
Yep.
So don't expect to be the top of the game, the best marketer, the best lead generator, right? You still need to go down and go through those learning processes and then triangulate them, meaning like double check it against something else, talk to other people, use that logic side of your brain to triple check things, right?
Exactly.
And I think most people have been programmed to take everything that is spoken to them, especially if someone is on a pedestal of any sort.
Because then you have authority bias.
Right.
So if anyone's using any of the Robert Cialdini principles, right, which everyone should buy that book, Influence.
Okay.
Another thing, if anyone's using those principles against you, on the lookout, because people use this in our society. Like, people know that authority works because we've been programmed to watch the teacher and to obey and not to question.
Yeah, since we were this big.
And that's part of the program.